Grade Podcast. Join us in this very special and exciting episode as we sit down with the 12th GBWC World Finals second place, Mr. Ryan Lau. But before all of that, allow us to welcome you to another episode of the Perfect Grade Podcast, your free favorite weekly show where we talk about the latest news, series, movies, games, model, kit releases, basically anything and everything Gundam under the sun. This podcast wouldn't be possible without our partners Gunpla Photography, Hobbylink Japan, and now joining us, Vivian Blue, your go-to online stores for Gunpla figures and anime goods straight from Japan. From high-quality kits to essential hobby supplies, they've got everything you need to bring your builds to life. Check them out by clicking on our affiliate links found in the description below. I am one of your hosts, Raynan, and alongside me are my co-hosts. As always, the Gunpla modeler, the animator, the perfect grade rockstar, the Unipla, Miguel. Voice as smooth as butter. No, voice as smooth as butter. Our head researcher, the Plamo Apprentice, Justin, the creator of one of the most active Gunpla communities, Gunpla Photography, the Gunpla photographer himself, the daddy, the bald one, GP, and joining him, the newest member of the of the Perfect Grade Studios, Ralph, his brother. And for our today's very, very special guest, his builds are out of this world, a GBWC veteran, the man behind everyone's favorite entry, an award-winning Gunpla enthusiast, Mr. Ryan Lau himself. Woohoo!
Hi guys.
Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thank you so much for being here. We are a big fan. Man, I don't know. This means so much. I'm gonna fanboy right now, but
No.
Can we fanboy for like 10 seconds
Yeah.
and just stare at Ryan?
No. We got to take a screenshot here. No, the pleasure is mine. I just love you're so good at this, Renan. Like,
oh,
is that how you pronounce your name, Renan?
yeah, you can. Yeah, it's Renan or Raynan. It's any.
Renan.
Yeah.
Man, you got such a natural knack. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my god. All right. Thank you so much.
Pretty impressed.
He's gonna die later.
Yeah.
He's gonna die from fanboying later.
Yeah. All right. So before we start, as always, I would like to ask everyone, how was your week? You know what? I'll start off. This week is incredible. It's been fun. Miguel, Justin, we went to the ToyCon. It's so good. Last time we went to Okada for a ToyCon last Sunday, and then some personal bias here. I really like that they released a new trailer for Superman and what do you call that? Switch 2 just got announced, so yeah, I'm happy for that. But anyway, how about you? Let's start with you, Justin. How's your week?
Justin? Who's Justin?
Oh my
My name is Craig Rubin.
Oh my
You cannot
god.
talk to me like that.
Or,
Just kidding. It's me, Justin.
who are you now?
Anyway, no. So, just like what Renan said, we went to Okada. We took a look at some of the nice-looking toys and merchandise. Actually, this is where I got these glasses from. These babies right here. Now I can assume a different persona, like I've always been doing my whole life.
Anything
Pass
new
the ball.
about Gundam? Did you build anything new today or no?
Not at all.
All right. No.
But I'll get there one day.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right, GP, how about you and Ralph? Anything new this week?
Aside from catching Vivian and I just set up a new build station. I'm about to take pics there, so I'll post some soon.
Yeah.
What about you all?
Well, basically same as Renan and Justin, it was really fun being in ToyCon. I was really inspired by, I was really excited seeing a lot of Gunpla merchandise. So yeah.
How about-
You bought a lot of cards there.
Our new member, and he's an artist.
Oh yeah. We got our artist here, Ralph. Miguel, how about you? How's your week?
It was fun.
When we
It was
went
fun. We went to the ToyCon. So for the viewers out there, we didn't actually go to Japan because we kept mentioning Okada.
Wait, we have a feedback. Can you lower your voice a bit? Sorry.
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 Okay.
So
So how about now?
Yeah, good, good.
yeah, so we
Yeah,
didn't
so we
actually go
didn't
to
actually go to
Japan.
Japan.
So Okada
So
is
Okada is
a
a
local
local
five-star
five-star
hotel.
hotel.
So
So
yeah,
the
Toyota
Toy-Con is
held there.
held there. So yeah, it was fun. So I bought a Gundam. So I built it. It was yep,
Oh man,
Those things.
we're
those things
having audio
are
issues right now. All right, let's go. Ryan, how about you? How's your week?
Oh, it was good. Yeah, I had a great week. Yeah, I was really looking forward to the Nintendo Switch 2 announcement as well too.
Oh,
I was like watching their announcement and stuff. It was funny though because I'm like a well, I love video games, right?
mm-hmm.
And I we have like my daughter. I have two daughters, right? And they love playing the Switch. And so I was always like waiting for this Switch 2 to come out. Um, but so just this past weekend, I bought like a PlayStation Portal, the handheld
Mm-hmm.
kind of video play
Oh yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so I was like, because anyway, so I started playing that, and I've been having a lot of fun with it this past week. So then I'm like, maybe I'll hold out on the Switch 2 for now, wait a little longer, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, because there's a lot of games I wanted to wait out to play with my girls, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, but I got the PlayStation Portal, and then one of the main games they wanted to play with me was like Minecraft. So
Mm.
I started playing Minecraft again. It's like so much fun.
Are you
This
Anyways,
is the
so
worst time
yeah,
for me to be poor.
are you
Ah.
are you
yeah.
are you planning on watching the movie this weekend?
Yeah, totally. Probably not this weekend, but for sure we'll watch it eventually. Yeah. I think we played Minecraft maybe like 5 years ago, and then now they're like addicted to it again. So we're just having a lot of fun with it.
That's
So
cute.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good week. Good week.
Yeah. All
It's
right.
crazy. They're adding so many updates to that game.
Yeah. There's so many new animals I don't even remember seeing, and like I don't know, just like bigger caves and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
You should play that one day.
Yeah. Kind of bums me though that the Switch 2 doesn't have an OLED display, but whatever.
I know.
Right?
I know. Like, and the price of the Switch 2 is like really high too. Like that was one of the things, and the games are really high, right?
Yeah.
Like expensive, right? And
$80.
so, yeah, right? I'm like, because I'm used to like PlayStation games costing that much,
Mm-hmm.
right? But anyways, yeah. There's a couple of PlayStation games I'm looking forward to coming out too. So, I mean, I think for now I'll just stick with the PS5, and then yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, Portal. That's just as fun, I feel.
All right.
Ryan, do you play? Do you know Elder Scrolls? Do you play Elder Scrolls?
Elder Scrolls. Yeah, I haven't played Elder Scrolls before, but I know of it for sure. Yeah, it's such an epic game, right? So
Okay, yeah, because that's very important for what's coming. So that's all.
oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Justin, take it away, I guess.
All right, Renan. And it's now the time you've all been waiting for. Our first segment of the show, this week's breaking news. All right.
Yeah.
All right, our first news. On April 1st, the Mobile Suit Gundam Wing 30th Anniversary Project has begun. April 7th marks the 30th anniversary of Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. To commemorate this milestone, made in 1995, a 30th anniversary illustration has been unveiled, featuring the protagonists Hiro Yui and Relina Peacecraft, dressed up in elegante attire. Additionally, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing 30th Anniversary special website has been launched to display the latest news and merchandise information related to the series. Stay tuned. April 7th, y'all. Next, we've got some gaming news. Super Robot Wars Y is coming to PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and Steam in 2025. Super Robot Wars is a grid-based tactical combat RPG that brings units and pilots from a variety of anime together to battle their mutual foes. Rise, unite, and triumph. Fist bump. Right. Okay. Next news from GundamKidsCollection.com. In celebration of MS Gundam Wing's 30th anniversary, the iconic Wing Gundam Zero is making its highly anticipated debut in Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2. Stay tuned for more updates of these major highlights. Right? And also from Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2's X account or Twitter, the RF Dom also joins the fray. This heavy mobile suit, deployed in force by the Olds Mobile Army, will be accessible in the supply drop on PlayStation. Okay, our next news, we've got some kits from Premium Bandai USA's Twitter or X page, and they were previewed last April 2nd. We've got the HG-1144 Gundam Plutone Black, the RG-1144 Gundam Astrea Type F, the RG-1144 Gundam Avalanche Exia, and a 30 minutes mission 1144 EXM E7SV Spinacia, Saint Valkyrie type. More kits to follow, probably. Now, our final news of today. It may or may not be an April Fool's prank, but it was reported that actress Sydney Sweeney is being eyed to star on the upcoming live-action Gundam film. Who knows what'll happen? Stay tuned for that one. And that's all for today's breaking news.
What the fuck?
What are your thoughts, team? Go.
Okay. Alright, let's start with the 30th anniversary of Gundam Wing. Ryan, are you a big fan of Gundam Wing?
It's really funny because like I'm from North America, right? And I feel like most North Americans, they grew up with Wing and stuff, right? But my introduction to Gundam actually started when I only lived briefly in Hong Kong for 2 years. So I actually never watched Wing before, and so even though I live in North America, I'm not like a crazy huge fan of the Wing series specifically. So yeah.
Do you have kits from Wing?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. How about you guys? What's your take on this? Are you guys excited for this?
I feel the same with Ryan. Like the whole community in the Philippines are a big fan of Wing as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a nostalgia effect,
Mhm.
stuff like that, and I'm just not a fan. I watched it. I hate it. I like the designs of suits. Aside from that, that's it.
What's the red one called?
Epion.
Epion?
Epion.
Yeah.
Epion. Okay. I don't have that.
And I can't believe the Wing is in GBO2 now. Like
Oh yeah.
they're, I don't know,
Yeah.
losing respect little by little.
What do you mean? more mobile suits it's better, right?
Well, yeah, but in GBO2 they're strictly UC.
Oh.
They don't do crossovers and stuff like that, but they're kind of slowly breaking that.
Hmm.
I have mixed feelings with it.
It's just a
Well,
commemoration.
maybe a portal opens, so crossover in the universes.
Oh no,
That's
isekai.
stupid. Ryan, do you
Or,
play?
or maybe they wake up and it's a dream, and then just kidding.
The Gundams.
Those are
dream.
such.
Ryan, do you play Gundam games? Have you ever played a Gundam?
Yeah,
game
that's.
before?
It's funny, like, although obviously I'm a huge Gundam fan, right? But I've actually never really played Gundam video games before. Aren't you like I'm all about like ones that I love RPGs and stuff like that, right? And so they don't really have any like Gundam RPG games and stuff like that. And so I guess over the years I've never really played any Gundam video games for that reason.
Hmm. Are you are you looking forward to playing one day? Maybe Gundam
Playing
Breaker 4.
a Gundam video game?
Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, I'll give it a try for sure. I don't know if I'll like buy a video game like a Gundam one, but if someone was like, "Oh, hey, like check this out," of course I'll play it, right? So, yeah.
The Breaker games are right.
Yeah, they look.
I know the Breaker games are cool because like you can customize and stuff like that too. So that aspect of it really appeals to me too. And of course, my entry was also heavily inspired by Gundam Breaker.
Yeah.
and so you know I love that aspect, the aesthetic of it rather, right, than the actual than perhaps the actual gameplay or story. I
You know,
find like
Ryan,
what draws me in for a lot of games is like the story involved with it. I'm more fascinated with that aspect of things than the actual minute to minute gameplay. So, yeah,
right.
Yeah,
You know, Ryan,
relate.
when I saw your entry in
yeah.
Instagram, I was like, this is gonna win.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
Yeah.
thinking that it's gonna win.
It was everyone's favorite. I don't know if you've
Everyone
seen.
was
Yeah.
oh,
we
nice. You're gonna make me teary eyed.
and
for real though.
let's move on to the was that the new P Bandai announcements? Any of you guys looking forward to any of these kits coming out?
The not black one. It's
No.
okay. It's a fun build.
Mm.
Yeah, the Plutone, it came out in the white one like years ago, so it's kind of
Yeah,
neat that they're releasing it as a black version.
in
I don't
black.
know much of the side story regarding it, but I think the design's pretty cool.
Love the legs and the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, very AOZ-esque.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Avalanche Exia RG.
It's just-
Yeah,
I'm just going. I don't know if they're gonna release it alongside with the kit, but it would be cool though because I already have the Exia RG Exia, but I really want that Avalanche attachment part.
hmm hmm
What do you call that? Those things on the bottom on the feet.
Sleds. Just kidding.
Skis.
Skates.
Oh, oh, wait, that's right. Yeah.
Mobile skis.
Mobile skis.
Keys. That's the one.
How about you, Ralph? Are you looking forward to this? You're a big fan of the 30-minute mission line, right?
Yeah, of course. It really caught my attention.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah.
But yeah.
Wait, are you shy?
Are you shy? Yeah. But yeah, and then we have we're not yet sure if this is an April Fool's joke, but it's looking like it's not. Yeah, so for the Gundam movie, they're eyeing Sydney Sweeney. I didn't expect that. Is she gonna play as Salem Mass? I wonder. But yeah, um, any thoughts on this? Ryan, are you looking forward to the live action Gundam movie that they're
I've been
making?
Yeah,
asking
man.
around, and
I
they
loved
all say it's
what's that movie? Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
I like I love Ready Player One. Well, as a whole movie, it's amazing too. Obviously, like that RX-78 scene is just
Mm.
like next level. I just thought the choreography of that scene specifically was so well done. Like the fight sequence and everything. Like,
Mm.
um, yeah, like little details from him using like the booster pack just to like not to fly, but just to like boost into the air to like slash down and stuff. Like, I just
Mm.
love that. So ever since Ready Player One, I was like, wow, like it is possible to make a Gundam fight look really cool and epic, right?
Mhm.
But of course, it comes down to the acting of the actual characters,
True.
right? So I'm of course really looking forward to this movie, and I really hope that it'll have good direction, right?
Yeah.
And in casting too, right? So did they? I don't think they've announced who Amuro would be, right? Or
Th-
Char or
there's no update yet regarding the story. So it's kind of surprising that they have a casting announcement, but it hasn't
yeah,
been confirmed yet if
yeah.
it's UC or a side story.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like, it's hard to judge based on one character. It's more like the chemistry between the characters, right? That I'm more interested in, right?
Mhm.
I guess like until they release more of who will play other character roles, then you know, it's easier to make a judgment there. So
True.
really, it could be any any person being cast right now, but
True.
I don't really
True.
know much about it.
Plus, yeah, Sydney is trending ever since Euphoria, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's cast into it just to get some seats on the.
Right.
I mean, get some people on the seats. But yeah,
Yeah.
That can happen.
yeah, that can happen. I mean, I'm not against it. I think she's a great actress.
Hmm
Yeah, and she's hot. But yeah. All right, so let's move on to our next segment, which is the interview with no one else, of course, but with Mr. Ryan Lau. But before we start, um, Ryan, introduce yourself and where can people find you?
Sure. My name is Ryan Lau, and I'm the Gunpla builder behind the Instagram account Gunpla Enthusiast. And yeah, that's my main account where I do all my social media, pretty much on Instagram. I do post on Facebook, right? But Facebook is more of like I don't include as many work in progresses on my Facebook. Facebook is more for just to show my like normal friends what I'm up to because I like to share that side of me with my friends too, right? But yeah, Instagram is primarily where you'll find me, and I try to post as many work in progresses as I can, right? I prefer like the photo format of documenting just because it's easier for me to just snap a quick iPhone picture kind of thing. But I love doing like befores and afters. Yeah, as you can see, kind of. Thanks for scrolling around in there. But I love showing just kind of the befores and afters. And one of my biggest, I think, goals in my whole Instagram posting is to just kind of show people how, like, what I did or how I get from A to B as whenever I can, right? Because when I first started out in this whole Gunpla journey, like I saw so many really cool builds, but I never really knew who I can ask or reach out to, or I never really saw the progress of a build. So from the onset of me starting this account, I always wanted to make it a goal to be like, yeah, as much as it is like a display of my works, but also to show how I got there. And also to be open, like if people have questions, asking questions, like I'm never gonna try to hide, how I did something. Just feel free to message me and ask me, and yeah, I'd love to like connect with you, kind of thing, right? So yeah.
All right, thank you for that, Ryan. Now, first, we would like to know, uh, like a side of you that may not be well known to others. Like, um, what was your like? How did you start with the whole hobby? Like, what drew you into like creating? I mean, building Plamo or Gunpla, and so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that question. A side that nobody knows about me. That's really interesting. So growing up in school, I was always, like focused on academics and stuff, right? So I never really had time to express my more artistic side, right? In fact, I don't know if I ever really built much like as a kid, for example, right? I do know as growing up, I like drawing and stuff. I was never really the best artist or anything, right? But I did love making things with my hands, and I feel like the first time I realized when I liked making things with my hands was when my wife and I were getting married, right? We had like almost a 2-year engagement because we wanted to make as many things as we could for our wedding, right? Everything from the pillars that we had up on stage to like little, the wedding favors. We made every single wedding favor. It was like, I think like we were making magnets, right? And each guest at our wedding, we wanted to give 3 magnets, right? Like custom made magnets, and we had a decent sized wedding. I think there were like almost, I was like 250 people. So we made like almost like 900 magnets, right, over the course of 2 years, kind of thing. And I remember telling people this, and people would always be like, "Man, like, don't you go crazy?" Because that's the first thing you always hear. It's like when people are getting married, they're like, "Oh, I hate the wedding planning process," right?
Yeah.
But for my wife and I, we actually really enjoyed the wedding planning process, and we really liked making things together, right? And so I think that's where it keyed in, and he actually even keyed in for her was like, wow, like Ryan really likes making things, right? And even for her, like she always loved crafting as a kid, right? And so over the years, like yeah, we would make many different things, right? Not only gunpla, right? Gunpla was a little later in my making journey. Actually, it was more like early in the days. I would like to make cosplay. Do you guys like cosplaying or anything or? Up in cons, right? Yeah.
Justin likes dressing
So,
up.
I got
oh,
something
oh yes,
ready.
that's right. Oh, nice, my man, just as my man. And so I remember early in the days, before, when my friend groups, one by one, we were all getting married. Like we would have bachelor parties and stuff. And so for all the bachelor parties, well, for actually two notable bachelor parties, I would make costumes for my friends to wear, right? And any of you guys play Dota 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was a huge Dota 2 fan, right? Back in university days, right? And so there was this one character called Lena Inverse. And so I made this like Lena Inverse costume for one of my friends to wear like around, a mall or whatever, right? And so anyways, so making things over the years was kind of really fun. I also made like one of my friends like a Sailor Moon outfit for he had to wear during his bachelor party. And so so early days was something that I really enjoyed making, right? One thing that that probably a lot of people may not know about me is like my wife and I, we love we love doing a lot of things together. But one of the things we love doing is like there's this. Have you guys heard of Pride and Prejudice, like the novel or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story
Right.
Pride and Prejudice? So my wife is a huge like Pride and Prejudice fan, right? So where we live, once a year they have this Pride and Prejudice ball.
Oh.
And so we all dress up in like Regency kind of, like that outfit with like, like the
Yeah.
the floofs coming out your neck and the tailcoats and stuff, right? And then so we love dressing up for that. We learn these like English country dances. So those are the dances where like all the males are on one side, all the females on the other, and then you kind of dance like together. It's like an olden day clubbing kind of thing. I always joke about, right? And so anyway, so we love doing that, right? We love doing different events like that together, right? But I think this early on, like with this passion and this like drive to make things, I think was where everything kind of started, right? It really started with the wedding planning where we just started making things and we just love it. So my wife, for example, right now, her main job is she's actually a crochet and knit designer, and she crochets and knits for a living, and yeah, so it's really cool, right? And then for me, it was I think I started taking Gunpla a little bit more seriously back in 2016, I guess, right? I had always built my first kit was when I was maybe 10, but it was like an uncle who bought it for me. That was when I lived in Hong Kong. An uncle who bought it for me. Secretly, I think he bought it for me like just because he wanted to build it himself. Because he's like, hey, look, Ryan, like there's this Gundam kit, right? It's like, let me build it for you and show you how it works. And so I remember sitting beside him like, I don't know, over 2 hours, and he was just like, back then you had to glue the pieces together, right? So it was like gluing everything together, and then I was just amazed. I remember being as a kid, I was blown away that like a 2D ish runner, right, when assembled together would turn into a 3D robot, right? I was pretty blown away back then. That was my very like first initial exposure to Gundam, right? And then later on, like in university, I remember. So I didn't do any more after that, right? But later on in university, I remember going to a friend's house, and my friend had a bookshelf of like I think he only had like 6 or 7 Gundam kits assembled, and I remember like just oohing and awing looking at his Gundam kits, right? And I was like, wow, I remember there was an uncle who bought me a Gundam kit when I was 10. I would love to like build again, right? And so early days in university, I bought a couple of high grade kits. Back then I was watching anime too, so I was watching Gundam Seed. I was a huge fan of that back then. And so I bought, I think, like 5 or 6 high grade Seed kits. I snapped them up, and I was like, oh, like these are so fun to build. And I remember like buying just like detail paints with like brushes, just because like I didn't like the look of stickers, so I was like, oh, I should just paint just these details where stickers would normally be placed, right? And I remember like looking at other models in magazines and being like, wow, like how do they make these like black panel lines so fine and so thin? And I remember buying a paintbrush and using like acrylic paints to try to paint like these panel lines in, and it was so ugly and so like thick, but those are my early days, right? I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, right? And I remember buying like thick Sharpie markers, trying to panel line too, and it was very ugly, and I ruined a couple of kits like that, but I had a lot of fun, right? And then fast forward to after getting married, after having my daughters, right? I was looking for a hobby to do again. Once again, like after realizing, man, I love building stuff with my hands, right? Then I was like, you know, I should look into building Gunpla again, right? And that's when I started like telling myself, I was like, you know, if I'm gonna build Gunpla again, right? I want to try like painting it, right? Like airbrushing it, right? And then so yeah, so that's how everything kind of started. I bought all the equipment, but I was so intimidated to use the airbrush, in the beginning, that I just left it like in the box. I left my like air compressor. I left like the whole spray booth. It was still in its box in my living room for like a year and a half because I was like, I'm too scared to use this. So yeah, and then one thing led to the next, and then yeah, I've been building since. So that was back in end of 2016 when I started wanting to do more with Gunpla. So yeah.
Can you still remember the first Gundam that your uncle gave you?
Yeah, it was the Hayakishiki. It was the Hayakishiki HG kit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it wasn't even gold plated. It was just like in a tan yellow color. So yeah, I still have it. So.
Oh, you still have it. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so you said that you discovered that you really like building, right? Yeah, I managed to scroll through your Facebook. Sorry about that.
Yeah, nice.
So you like, yeah.
Nice.
So you're building Lego here with your wife. That's pretty
Exactly.
cool. So
Exactly.
were there any outside influences when it comes to you doing your building your models as a builder, like for example here as a Lego, has this influenced you in your creations in some way?
Very good question. I would say Lego. I always loved building Lego. One thing that Lego probably would have taught me was when I was a kid, right? Like I always wanted like a full Lego set, right? Um, so long ago. I love how you do your research so well, man. And
He's very good at that.
yeah, when I was a kid, right, I had all the hand-me-down Lego sets from my cousins. So none of them were like of completed sets, right? So I would say if anything, what Lego taught me was like how to because I would build out of my imagination, right? Like I would be like, oh, I loved spaceships at the time, right? So I would build spaceship right out of the Lego blocks and stuff, right? So I spent many hours as a kid just building randomly with Lego. And so as an adult, of course, right? Now that I had a little bit more money, I could buy like a full Lego set. And that Eiffel Tower was actually probably one of the very first complete Lego sets that I bought, right? That I actually built from instructions, right? And so I would say at a young age, Lego probably would have just taught me how to like be more creative in terms of piecing things together or just looking at general geometry and stuff like that. So, but in terms of like Gunpla, like later on in my Gunpla journey, Lego does play a big role because I love Lego for after my more intensive builds, I like to build a Lego set. So I see it more as like a like a restful build session, right? Like when I'm still kind of itching to build something, but I don't want to jump into a really intense project, then I would pick up a Lego kit and build that, and it would satisfy my itch for creativity, right? So. Yeah.
Like a way to cool down, right? To cool down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. Exactly. So I love Lego for that too. And the more recent, like Lego's been doing an amazing job creating these sets just that appeal to adults. So I think Lego's really killing it with all the stuff. I just really hope they could do like a Lego Gundam kind of thing. I'm always looking at these like Gundam mocks, right? And like I'm like, oh, this Lego build's so amazing. I just want Lego to make a kit of this, right? So, yeah.
How about in terms of like when you said that you cosplayed before, right? Do you still do it? It has
Yeah, so we still do it. Like we do it with our family now, like with our two daughters, right? And so we love watching anime, right? And so we try to dress up cosplay, maybe not as intense with like really elaborate weapons or crazy costumes, but we still love going to a bunch of cons, like anime cons locally where we live. and dress up. Like last year, like our daughters loved watching Haikyuu, like the volleyball anime.
Yeah.
And so we all dressed up as characters from that volleyball anime. So it's much more low effort cosplay now because it's easy to piece together these costumes, or you could buy it for cheap kind of thing. So I no longer make really intense cosplay costumes anymore. I never was really intense into it, but that was kind of like my early foray into crafting, right? So yeah.
I thought that the helmet that you wear on your profile picture on your Instagram, I thought that was a pre-built.
Yeah.
It turns out you
Yeah.
created that
Oh,
one.
good question, man. So it was actually okay. So actually, fast forward, or sorry, not fast forward, but rewind back. It is a helmet that I made. So this was actually before. Actually, this lends in really good with my build story, right? Because back in 2016, I really wanted to. There was this builder, a cosplay artist, back in. I think he's in Asia somewhere. I think Singapore. But he made like a unicorn Gundam cosplay outfit, right? That was so amazing. So I remember he actually had like this PDF manual teaching you how to make a helmet, right? I remember telling myself, like, I had also recently come back from Japan, and I bought my first PG kit, which was the PG Zeta Gundam, right? And so I told myself, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can use this PG Zeta Gundam to like build a full body cosplay outfit, right? And so, so I made all those like paper kind of templates based on the PG Zeta's head, right? I would like measure the PG Zeta head and then scale it up like X amount, right? And then figure out how to construct it. And then I would transfer that to corrugated plastic. And then I would like cut it out and then glue everything together and then spray paint it. And I wired LEDs in it too. And so, yeah, I never would have imagined that would serve as my Instagram photo all these years. But
So
it was
cool.
funny, like, yeah, and it's really neat because like this helmet took me around 3 months to make, right? And I spent a lot of time making it. And I honestly wanted to build the entire Zeta suit too. Actually, I wanted to build like the A1 suit, but anyways, so then after 3 months of just making the helmet, I was like, man, I'm exhausted. Like this thing took so long to build. I think it would take me easily another year to build like the body part, right? And so I kind of gave up after the helmet. And then I kept on looking at the PG Zeta head, right? That you see, right? And I was like, man, like I think it'd be much quicker if I just painted a PG Zeta, right? Than if I were to like make this entire Zeta suit, right? And so that was actually the very first. My PG Zeta was the very first Gunpla I actually painted, like custom painted.
Oh.
And rather than using an airbrush, I used all spray cans because I wanted to kind of learn. So this was like nearing the end of 2016 now. This is like fall of 2016. That's when I was like, you know what? I kind of want to learn the painting process. And that's actually an advice I give a lot of new builders if they ever want to dabble into painting, right? I highly recommend trying like spray cans first. It is more expensive, right? But it gives you a really good idea of like the whole process of painting. I always loved watching people like have those wooden skewers. Like those little alligator clips, right? And you clip pieces on and painting. I remember watching a bunch of YouTube videos and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like people can actually custom paint their Gunpla, right? And I really wanted to do it, but I was like really intimidated by using an airbrush. So I started using a spray can because I used a lot of spray cans for the actual costume, like helmet, right? So I was like, I can use spray cans, right? And so that's where my initial love for painting Gunpla started, was like in building that Zeta head helmet. And then afterwards from that, I decided to paint the entire PG Zeta. And after doing that, I was like, I think I'm ready for airbrushing. And I was like, I love the painting process, so I know I'm going to love airbrushing. And so that kickstarted off everything for me. So yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, Raynan, because like, yeah, it's so instrumental actually. And sometimes I forget about that helmet thing too. So yeah.
So
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Where did you get that nice helmet?
Oh, thanks,
So
man.
good thing,
That was a
good thing we
question.
covered that early.
Yeah, thanks for asking that.
All right. So, was there any specific moment where you realized that, oh shit, I'm really good at this. I should like start joining competitions and all that.
Oh, well, I always have like the idea that like um I guess the very first I guess I should like um explain a little bit too. Like I always have the mindset of like, no matter how good you are or anyone else is that there's always someone better than you. And so I feel like there's never going to be a moment where you're going to be like the peak,
Mm.
like the goat of everything, right? And I mean, of course I appreciate it when people are like, "Oh, Ryan, you're like so amazing," right? But then part of me is always like, like yeah, sure, I might be proficient in certain areas, but I know off the top of my head 10 builders who are way better than me kind of thing. And I feel like that's the mindset that I always carry is that like no matter how good you are, there's always going to be someone who's better than you. And also the mindset that like um everyone is also on their own journeys too, right? That's actually a big thing my wife and I always talk about because we're so like we're very not involved, but we're very attuned to like the whole creator community kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like everyone is on their own journey in terms of creating things, right? And so some people might be nearing the end of their journey or later on in their journey, right? Like really veteran builders, for example, or some might be very early in their journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean one's better than the other, right? Because like the someone who starts off early on this journey, they could have so much potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't feel like there's really any point where in my Gunpla journey where I was like, oh dang, like I've made it. I'm like I'm the builder or whatever, right? Or I'm the goat, right? But it's a really good question because I know oftentimes when people talk about competitions and stuff, it's very intimidating, right? And so I feel like in terms of my personal story, it all started actually Zaku Aurelius. You guys know Zaku Aurelius, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Zach.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a really good friend of mine now.
Mm.
But early on in the years, I was like a huge fan of his channel. I'm still a huge fan of his channel, but like, early on, I remember back in 2017, he held one of his very first online competitions. He holds a lot of competitions now, right? But back in 2017, he held his very first competition, a build competition, and it was a custom Zaku contest, right? And so I still remember, so like I painted that Zeta maybe like fall of 2016, right? And then I painted maybe one other kit since then, right? But then I remember in February-ish of 2017, Zach made an announcement. It was like, I'm going to hold my very first like online competition, right? And it's a custom Zaku contest. I want you guys to build like a custom Zaku-themed piece, right? And I remember seeing the video, and I was like shaking in excitement because I was like asking myself, I was asking my wife, I was like, should I take part in it? Like, should I do it? And I remember we were traveling at the time too, and so I wasn't even at home at the time, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do this, right? And it was like I was like very, I was kind of participating in it, not with the mindset of like I'm gonna crush the competition, but it was more with the mindset of like I think it'll be so much fun to like support Zach because I've been a fan of his channel for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so then that's how it all started. I never cut into a plastic Gundam kit other than cutting sprues and runners off, right, at that point. And so cutting into a kit was terrifying to me, and adding, like, gluing pieces that weren't part of the manual and adding things to it was terrifying to me, right? And so, yeah, so I built my first custom because of that competition. And honestly, I don't know if I would have customized the kit if it weren't for that competition, to tell you the truth, right? And because as I was doing it, I was just having so much fun because I had this idea in my head, and as I was cutting things up, I was like gluing it. I was like, hey, I think this might work, right? And again, it was like probably my second airbrush kit, I think, at the time, right? But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I ended up winning that competition. I ended up winning first place in that competition. And I was like blown away, right? And I was like, I felt, at first I didn't even expect that, right? But obviously after the announcement, I was blown away, and then that was when it kind of like clicked when I was like, hey, I might want to try to do more customs, right? And it just so happened that that year also Canada was actually one of the countries that GBWC was going to be hosted at, because previous to 2017, North America was the representative, so it was U.S. and Canada. For the year 2017, Bandai decided to make Canada as its separate entry, and so for GBWC came like maybe a couple weeks after I won like Zach's contest. And so I was like, whoa, this is such a cool opportunity, right? Like I want to try to take part in this, right? And so that's how it all started. Like in 2017, I made like a GM Sniper 2 custom, and I ended up getting bronze for that. So I feel like I was always like entering these competitions not with the anticipation of winning, but it was just like being a part of it because I just wanted to participate in something greater, right? And so yeah, but it was really Zach's contest where I really kicked off, and I was like, wow, like I love doing customs. I can't believe I won first at Zach's contest. Let's try to do more. And so I feel like that's when I first started building more. Yeah.
I see. All right. Yeah. So we here, so all four of us, so GP, Justin, Miguel, and I are planning to join this year's GBWC, and so GP prepared some questions about GBWC for you. GP, you want to take it away?
Sure. Well, first question is, what made you decide to enter your first Gunpla competition? Were you hesitating at first?
Yeah. So since your first competition was Zach, we were talking about the GBWC here, right? So.
Right.
Yeah, my first what made me enter my first GBWC, or was it GBWC competition specific, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so back in 2015, so this is like before I like painted my first custom, right? I remember watching a video of have you guys ever heard of the builder Joshua Dara from Australia?
Migs has. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
big fan, bro.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of Josh. Yeah, he's like, you could probably tell a lot of my style is like reminiscent of Josh's too, right? And so he's a huge inspiration of mine, right? Back in 2015, when he represented Australia for 2015 GBWC, he made a YouTube video documenting his whole experience there. And I remember watching it. At that point, I had no idea what GBWC was. I didn't even know there was like a worldwide competition, right? And so I remember just being in awe, like my jaw dropped watching his competition video, and I was like, man, there's a competition in the world for Gundams, right? And I'm like, and they fly you to Japan to compete against other countries. I was like, this is the best thing ever, right? And then that's when I started looking, and that's when I found out, like, oh man, like North America is one whole category on its own. And I was like, man, North America, like US has so many strong builders, right? So I never really thought about it again until 2017's announcement that they had Canada as one of the countries, right? So that 2015 video that Josh made was very instrumental, because immediately once I heard that GBWC was coming to Canada, I immediately knew I wanted to participate, because I was like, man, it would be a dream of mine to go to Japan one day, right? And to be able to meet other builders and like just nerd out, right? So that's how my first kind of competition came. It was more so just like, GBWC is coming to Canada? Of course I'm going to participate. A part of me was also scared that not that many people would participate and they would like pull Canada out of the competition in future years. So I was like, I was telling like all my friends to participate. I was like, everyone participate in this, right? Like we need to show that like we have good representation, right? So yeah, that's my 2017 piece. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Aw, thanks guys. It was it was early on in my build days, so yeah.
We found a clip here. I would just like to sorry, GP, I'll just like to interject. So we found a clip of you accepting an award during the 2018 GBWC Global.
Yeah.
I couldn't find information as to what the award was, because the trophy was it black or navy blue?
It was, good question. Wow, you guys are so good with your research, man. I'm pretty impressed. Good job, guys. So in 2018, so 2018, so 2017 I won third place, right? And then so obviously in 2018 I wanted to like compete again, right? And so 2018, this award that I won is what they call a corporate sponsored award. So back in the day, they don't do that. They haven't been doing that for the last couple of years, at least not since COVID, right? But in 2018, they had three corporate sponsored awards actually. And so basically, in addition to the first, second, and third place winners, there would be like corporate sponsors that would actually choose their favorite entry, and then they would award it to those contestants. So it would be possible for you to win either first, second, or third, and also a corporate sponsor on top of that. So it doesn't have to be like not everyone has to win only one, right? But in 2018, so that's another. Okay, so 2018 is a funny year, right? Because like I went there. Actually, both years, 2018 and even this past one, I had major imposter syndrome when I arrived, right? Because I was like, man, everyone's builds are so good. You know what I was telling you guys in the beginning, where I was like, no matter how good you are, like there's always someone better. And like I honestly feel that way going to GBWC every year, especially in 2018. I was like going there and I was like, man, this is like amazing. Like I'm just admiring everyone's builds, right? And so I went in there after seeing everyone's builds. I was like, man, like I'm just so happy to be here. Like that's all, right? I don't even care. Like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get last place, but I don't even care because I'm just so proud to be amongst these like amazing builders. And then so going to the ceremony, we knew of these corporate sponsors awards. So there was also a Gundam base corporate sponsor award that was won by Manson. Like he won like a blue. It's like a blue trophy. My trophy is like a gunmetal gray trophy, right? And so when they announced that I was like they called it the Men's Begin. So Men's Begin is kind of like a hair dye company. And so it has nothing to do with like mech, or it has nothing to do with like models, right? But they just so happen to be a corporate sponsor of the event. And so they picked my entry because they really liked kind of the colors, the construction of it and everything, right? And so when they called me up, I was like, man, that is so cool. Like I can't believe I can bring home a trophy, right? And so 2018 was a very memorable experience because of that. So yeah. So I made here the Kshatriya Besarang. It's basically like in the anime there's like the regular Kshatriya, and then there's the Kshatriya repaired, right? So the Kshatriya Besarang is like what I imagined it to look like in between the two modes, right? Of like so there's only like 1.5 wing binders. And and I used like Barbatos frame for like the right leg and stuff like that. So because I never really liked the peg leg of the Kshatriya repaired, like the peg leg gun. So I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if I could show like the skeleton, like the Kshatriya, right? And so that was a really fun build. I really enjoyed this one. Yeah.
I can see the Barbatos chest.
Yeah, you can see the Barbatos like torso, right? I used that as the calf
Right.
armor. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Damn.
Aw, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, GP. Before you continue, I just want to ask. Like, we saw. So I watched some of the parts of the 12th GBWC. Like, I saw how crazy it was. Like, I saw that they have like a specific what do you call that, idol group just specifically for Bandai.
Yeah.
Like the Linkle Planet.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, right? And then I just want to ask, like, back then in 2018, is it as glamorous as it is now, or was it more simpler?
That's a really good question. Yeah, really good question. Actually, okay, so back in 2018, they only had 2 categories, actually. They only had the over 20, it was like the youth category and then like the over 21 category or something like that. So I don't even know if they had the age specifications. This past year, they had like under 14, under 20, and over 21.
Yeah.
But back in 2018, they only had 2 categories. So in other words, what that meant is like they expanded the categories quite a bit more since then. So to tell you the truth, back in 2018, they didn't have like a group. Like Linkle Planet wasn't created at the time, right? But in terms of the ceremony itself, it was actually a lot better back in 2018 because they actually had like a whole like catered dinner for us. So this is how the event worked in 2018. we all like arrived at Gundam base, right? We would all be given 2 hours to set up our entry. After the 2 hours, each country's region would have a rep who would bring them out for lunch. And then so we would go out for lunch with our country's reps while our entries were being judged. And then after 2 hours, or after like it was like 2 hours, then we would head back to Gundam base where the ceremony would begin. And the ceremony would be very similar, except we didn't have like a girls group sing or anything. It was pretty much like everything that we saw in GBWC 12th, minus like the girls group singing kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so we all of us would still wait for the camera, and the judges would give the corporate sponsored awards, right? And then they would name the third and second and first winners, right? And immediately after that, we would all head to the giant unicorn statue to take photos outside. And while we were taking photos out there, they would like reorganize the entire Gundam base area and make it into this like banquet. Like, so they put like banquet tables out. There was like this like whole like buffet line out there. And then so when we arrived back there, we had like a dinner, it was a pretty formal dinner. And during the dinner, it was really cool because they would play like games during the dinner. They would show like a saber piece, and they'd be like, which kid is a saber piece from? Like A from like HG, like Freedom Gundam, like MG, whatever, right? And then if we answered it right, people would come and they would just dump like packs and packs of like add-on, like Bandai Gundam add-on packs, right? And they would literally just dump it on your table, and you're like, whoa, this is awesome, right? And then like we went through maybe like a dozen questions like that. So it was a very entertaining. It felt like a wedding ceremony, you know, like sometimes you play games, you have dinner and stuff, right? And then we had a lot more time to like hang out and chill with other like other countries and stuff. And then after that, they gave us like a coupon to use. So the whole store was closed during this time too, right? So they gave us a coupon. It was equivalent to like $100 US, right? To use anywhere in the store. Like you could choose whatever you wanted in the store, right? And then so we were just all like shopping together, and then the event ended, right? So it was actually I feel like they had the same budget back in 2018 as they do now, but because now they added a whole other category and they fly like the parents of the under 14. Like if you're under 18, they have to fly the parents there too, at least one guardian, right? And so I feel like a lot of the budget has gone to like increasing this whole third category. And so, for example, for GBWC 12th, we actually didn't have this awesome dinner ceremony. We had a lunch, but it was like a bento lunch inside a conference room area, right? And so it wasn't as formal, and like everyone was just kind of on their own. And then after the ceremony, everyone just kind of like left, right, and did their own thing. So it was I feel like back then it was more like of a true celebration, whereas the last year, and I know last year's was similar too, it just felt like it was like a ceremony, and then it's like, okay, it's over, see you guys later kind of thing, right? But I'm not complaining, of course. I'm still obviously really happy we were able to be there, right? But if you were to ask, like in terms of the production, the quality and like what we got, I feel like back in 2018 was a lot more like as a country representative, you felt more like, wow, this is a good dinner banquet for us now. Like, oh wow, we can go to this place now, right? So, but yeah. Whereas in GBWC 12, they gave us kits right at the end, but we couldn't choose what kits. Like all of us got the same kits, so that was one thing that was different, right?
That's the gold kits?
I'll never complain with free kits. So we got the gold kits as the country winner, right? So they didn't give us those kits at the event, but at the event they gave us the RG Perfectibility, the Unicorn Perfectibility, and then also the MGSD Freedom Gundam. But it was like the clear plastic one. So they're both like Gundam base exclusives. So, but a lot of us were like, oh, I miss the days when we can choose our own kits kind of thing, right? And so, but that's okay, whatever. Like I'm still happy, like obviously. But as the first, second, and third winners, they give us like a mega size RX-78 that's tinted in the color of the medal we won. So I got a silver one. So that was like really cool. Yeah. All
right, GP, you got more questions?
Yeah, to continue with the GBWC questions, is there pressure from yourself or from others to outdo your last GBWC entry?
That's a really good question. I always tell myself like, oh, actually, it's good you guys asked that because like a lot of people actually always ask me that. It's like, what's your next build gonna be, right? And so for me, like, I feel like there's not much pressure. Like, I'm again, I'm not gonna. For sure, I want to compete again in GBWC. I'm pretty sure I won't make something in time for this year, right? But the main reason why I like to compete again is not because I want to compete until I win a gold medal, but it's because I just love the energy. I love the relationships that I make right there, and of course, like the free trip to Japan is like the biggest motivating factor. Like it's just awesome, right, to be able to go and represent your country. So in terms of pressure, like no, I don't have any pressure to like go back to win first place, right? In fact, I'm like winning second this year was already a massive, like I didn't expect that at all, right? And so it was mind blowing for me, right? And it's funny, like sometimes people like ask like also, oh, what's your next build gonna be, right? And I like to joke with them. I forgot who mentioned it. One of my friends maybe was like, hey Ryan, next GBWC, you should make an entry and you should use the exact same RX-78, remove the grid pattern, and rename it to Loaded.
After loading, loaded.
I thought that was funny. I thought that was really funny. I was like, it's such a great idea. I should totally do that. So, anyways, yeah. So not much pressure, but I really enjoy GBWC. At least the energy that the competition has, right, and the people you meet. So for sure in the future, I want to make something. As of now, I have no ideas yet, but yeah.
You know what? We've interviewed Tim Tam. Have you met him in
Yeah,
the event?
yeah, Tim. Yeah, loved meeting Tim. I loved meeting the guys from the U.S. They were so great. So it was fun hanging out with those guys. So.
Okay, last question. This is a good one. If you were a judge at a future GBWC, what would you prioritize in a winning entry?
That's a really good question. So it's interesting, right? I find the judging metrics that they have, the three ones, which are basically creativity or idea/creativity, right? Painting and construction. I find those three metrics to be pretty good. Now I know a lot of times people could criticize those three metrics, right? But it gives a lot of like freedom of expression in how you want to do your builds, right? And so if I were a judge, right, immediately I would probably like, I feel like when you're competing at GBWC, right, there's certain givens that should be done. Like for example, like seam lines should be closed and sealed up, right? Nub marks should not be seen, right? Those are kind of like givens, right? A smooth paint work, I feel like that's a given for sure, right? So if all those things are givens, right, in kind of a competition, right, then there's this X factor that you have to look into then, right, in terms of judging, right? And that X factor, what that X factor is, right, could be multiple things, right? It could be either an entry that you've just never seen done before, right? Which is really hard to do. Like, if you guys think about it, like that's always, of course, the dream, right? Is to make an entry that nobody has ever made before or that nobody has seen before. Because I feel like with more and more people getting into Gunpla, right? Or even like modeling in general, right? It's getting harder and harder to do things that nobody has seen before, right? And so if I ever see something where I was like, wow, I've never seen this done before, that immediately is going to catch my eye and catch my attention, right? Whereas if I've seen like hundreds and hundreds of like dioramas of like two suits fighting each other, or something else, right? Like a comic coming to life kind of thing, like those kind of tropes, right? Then it would have to be done really, really well in order to be catching, right? And so as a judge, like those things, like I always coin it the term X factor, which is basically like the wow element in your piece, right? Like, is there something that catches my eye, right? And so that would be one of my first criteria in judging. And if you think about it too, like a lot of the judges in Japan, right? These are like editors of hobby magazines and like Bandai's like, official representatives, right? So these guys have seen like the best of the best, and they've seen like many weathered entries. They've seen many like creative paint jobs and stuff like that, right? So in order to wow them is going to be pretty hard, right? And so, but at the same time, right? Like, this is I'm calling like this is if I were to judge like the world winning entry though, right? So it's different. I don't want that to intimidate people from joining GBWC 2, right? Like I don't want everyone thinking like I have to build something that no one's ever seen before, right? Or oh, I have to, do this to the highest degree. I always tell people like join it, right? Like just become part of it because through that learning process, you're going to learn a lot from it, right? I think the best thing is like if competitions can offer feedback to the builders, right? That would be one thing I would love to do is like looking at entries, talking with the people who built it and be like, hey, this is what you did really well in your entry. This is what you could work on your entry, right? And or have you ever thought of adding this to your entry to boost it, kind of thing, right? So, but I would say I would judge that pretty highly in my books. Like if everything else is equal, like the paint smoothness, the color schemes, I would put the X factor as like, oh, okay, what is the X factor in that entry? Like, does it have amazing kind of like weathering effects that are done, right? Or is there a concept that I've just never seen pulled off before, right? Or is it posed really well, right? Those are all things that could contribute to the X factor. That's how I would judge it.
So 2 Gundams fighting each other. What about 2 Gundams kissing each other?
Yes, that would be a wow factor.
I have
That
my
would be a wow
idea.
factor.
No.
Yeah, but you get what I mean, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
as a
You
judge,
won,
if
bro.
we're looking at like hundreds of entries and all of them are like fighting each other, if you see that one with 2 Gundams kissing each other, you'd be like, wait, what's going on here? You're gonna do a second take, right? And that's enough to
What?
just like trip the judges a bit. Yeah.
Oh.
And if it's done well too.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a question. So you mentioned earlier that you wish that we would have gotten a feedback. When you went up the stage, did they not give you the reason as to why they think that you won? Because I couldn't understand what was happening because it was in Japanese. So I was wondering like,
Yeah.
well, did they tell you like at least the winners? Like the reason that you won, the reason why they liked it.
So that was the really cool thing is like back in 2018 when I won the corporate sponsored and also this time around, like they do tell you, the judges specifically tell you like why they liked your entry and why your entry won. Unfortunately though, like the other contestants like who did not, if you didn't get like a corporate sponsor or if you didn't win top 3 places, never really talked to you or told you, right?
Okay.
That's also why I liked 2018 in terms of how they ran the competition a little bit more. Because remember how I was telling you how there was the dinner part of it, right? The judges were actually at the dinner as well too. So I remember pulling aside Meijin Kawaguchi and then asking him, it's like, hey, Meijin Kawaguchi, can you tell me like what you liked about my entry, what you didn't like about it, what can I work on, right? And I remember specifically like he was telling me, he was like, oh, he has a very, like everyone has their own judging styles, right? But what stuck out to me was like, I remember him telling me like, oh, when you look at a mobile suit, oftentimes your eyes will be drawn to like specific areas of the mobile suit, right? The most obvious area that judges will usually see on a mobile suit is like the chest area, right? And so he's like, so make sure you detail that area really well. Now, detail doesn't mean you go crazy with panel lines or you go crazy with like adding different mechanical stuff, right? But make sure that that's an area that's like showcase area, right? Or there's certain areas where the eyes focus on that you want to make sure that is done really well, right? So I remember taking that away and I was like, wow, like the chest, okay, noted. I'm going to make sure the chest on all my Gunpla pieces are really well done. Like if you have a silvering of a decal on your chest, maybe redo that, right? Or if you have like a accidental scribe that goes away, right, on the chest, make sure you fix that kind of thing, right? And so that was one takeaway I got from it, right? And I thought that was interesting because it's not something that you normally would hear. Like normally you would hear judges speak more broadly, right? But he was very specific about like the chest, right? And so, or just area. It might not be the chest if you can't see it that well, say in a diorama or something, right? But an area on the piece that you can see really well, you want to make sure you detail that really well, and it's done really well, right? So the little things like that. But whereas this year, the judges were nowhere to be seen after the competition, so we couldn't even like ask, like for people who didn't get the feedback, couldn't even ask, right? And so, but yes, when they gave the feedback when we were up on stage, like for that, it was like amazing. Like I really enjoyed what he said. We had earpieces in our ears, so we were able to hear translation, like live translation, as the judges were telling us. So I think that was like really valuable. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
All right, so I really love that advice. So focus on the chest or the specific parts that you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a while ago we were speaking about the X factor when it comes to making a custom kit. So Ryan, do you have for your X factor, the X factor you put on your kits? Do you have a signature style or technique that you always incorporate in your builds?
That's a great question. So, I guess one of my styles you guys probably notice is like I really like clean builds, right? And
Yeah.
I really I feel like as a builder, I'm more along the line of like more clean and clinical and like I think design is one thing I really like and look into, like everything from even like not only panel line placement, right, but also like decal placement. I feel like all of that all comes together, right? So I feel like that's probably my style, I guess, is like trying to make things as clean, as clinical looking as possible, right? Just because I love, like for example, in this example of cars, right? Like I love clean cars, right? Yeah, there's some people who really like, more destroyed kind of, or more like, yeah. But that's kind of like my style, what I gravitate towards, right? Oh, hey, thanks for showing the arrival. Yeah. So it's really funny, right?
I love
So
this one,
because
by
I
the way.
love, aw, thank you,
That's
thank
my
you,
favorite
thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Aw, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I mean, going to this piece specifically is like that's another thing that I think is a huge thing is like marrying your piece with the base, right? I think that's really important. And so going again, one of my biggest challenges in making this piece specifically was determining how can I justify making a clean mobile suit in this destroyed Earth setting, right? And so that's why I had the concept of making it as if it was like a prototype suit, right? This painted in like prototype colors, right? And that's also why I named it The Arrival. The idea is that when it first arrives, it should be clean, right? As opposed to like, battle worn, right? And so, yeah, so I wanted to make it like it's okay. This thing has just jumped out of a plane or like blasted out into, and landed on Earth kind of thing, right? And so with that said, I still did add weathering to the feet area. So again, like you're not going to appreciate that so much in the pictures, but if this were to be judged by a judge, at least if I were the judge, that would be the first thing I would look at. Be like, okay, this thing's like landing on Earth, it's crashing down. The feet should at least have some weathering on it, kind of thing, right? And so that was the one thing that I did add to this one here, right? So, but yeah, but you can tell like 95% of the suit is all pretty clean though. So, yeah. And with this one, the wow factor that I wanted to create with this one is that whole crashing scene, right? And also to try to suspend like rocks without seeing wires suspending. Like that was the one thing like from my 2018 GBWC, the Kshatriya, like you can see that pole, right? But for this one, I wanted to make it look like, yeah, you can see the pole that's suspending the Kshatriya. So it's kind of like, if I were to do it now, I would try to figure out ways to attach it so that the foot is being attached so you don't see the acrylic pole. But for this, I wanted to create an effect where the rocks are like suspended, right? And so I used kind of 3 different techniques to do that, right? There were some that I pinned onto the actual suit. So it looks like it's just like being rubbed off against the suit. There were some that I pinned onto the rocks, right? just like right at a corner spot, right? And then there's some that I just stuck into that cloud behind him, right? So it was kind of so when all combined together, it looks like it's like rubble that's being lifted, right? Kind of like Dragon Ball Z when they're like charging up Super Saiyan mode, and then the Earth's just kind of like going up. So that's kind of like a big inspiration. And also like the other thing is like to give that suspension is like the ribbons on the back of the head. All of it kind of like comes together, right? So when you look at it, it has more of like a dynamic kind of scene, right? So that was kind of like the wow factor I wanted to create, so that when people are looking, I had to also like tweak the waist, the articulation a lot. That's another thing I'm really big on is like the pose. I want to make sure that the poses are kind of believable, because a lot of times in Gunpla, the articulation might not be the best, or even if it is, like sometimes when you do it a certain pose, it just looks awkward, right? And so so I had to tweak the pose a lot in this one here to make it look like it's actually crashing down kind of thing, right? So yeah.
All right. So my first exposure to going back to the arrival, my first exposure to that was when a fellow builder named do you know G Grade?
G Grade,
The
yeah, I
builder
do.
named G Grade.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
he's really good.
Yeah, yeah. He shared one of your Instagram posts. You were specifically on the arrival build. You were using the breadlocks for the
Yeah.
radiator
Yes.
things here, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I always wanted to ask, what are some of your favorite materials or tools or even techniques when customizing your gunpla? Yeah, that one
Great.
specifically.
Yeah. Oh, Reina, you're on top of it, man. You like know everything that he's talking about. Down to the
Yeah.
post. I'm impressed, dude. Thanks so much for showing these. These are actually really helpful. Yeah, my favorite tools and techniques. You know what? That's a really great question, right? I feel like nowadays with social media, with like Instagram, and even Twitter, like I've been recently a bigger fan of Twitter because I've been seeing a lot of following a lot of Japanese builders, right? And so I always see different tips and techniques that they use, right? In terms of myself, that's a really good question. Um, I you guys know of Ray Studio, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Ray, right? Oh man, he's like legendary, right? Yeah, like he is someone who is like a goat of mine kind of thing, right? And so, but I don't know if you guys noticed, but in a lot of his, it was more like his like bigger scale Barbatos head that he scratch built kind of thing. He used a lot of like white glue, right? And I always wanted to know what that white glue was, and it's basically like this, like it's called cyanon glue,
Oh.
and so. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have it. Like we for sure don't have this in stock in Canada, right? So when I go to Japan, I always stock up on this, right? But basically, it's like a CA glue. It's like a white CA glue that is really really good. Like it because it's white too, it blends in perfectly with like pop plate. Not that it matters because you're like painting it anyways, but it glues plot plate together really really well. Like you guys know, if you use CA glue on plot plate, it actually like doesn't fuse it or melt it kind of thing. You can like split it open really easily kind of thing, right? But this cyanon, I feel like it also melts it to some degree too. I don't know what it is in it that does it, but it also is great for like gap filling. It's also really great for like if you even want to bulk fill an area and then sand it down. Like it's a very versatile glue. So whenever I want to change shapes of things or like glue plot plate together, I still use like your regular quick set, cement kind of thing, your Tamiya quick set. But like the cyanide glue is a great glue to use, right? Yeah, I mean, tools in terms of like, you were talking about tools and techniques, right? That I like to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of it, I would say the glue is a huge thing for me, right? That I use. It's not really specifically a technique, right? But I think it's such a versatile material, right? That I've been really loving it. In terms of techniques, that's a really good question. I mean, I'm trying to dabble a little bit more with like scratch building, and I'm still very like new with scratch building. But yeah, I mean, one of the techniques that I think a lot of people have used before is basically to replicate plot plate parts, you just glue like plot plates together with a little bit of super glue again, like just regular super glue, and then you can sand them all to be the same shape, and then you can like crack them off, and then you can use all those same shapes to like glue together to make a final finished piece kind of thing, right? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say like overall techniques. Oh, another one is like I don't know if you guys use, but there's like this like metal tube cutter meant for like cutting metal pipes, right?
Okay.
And so, but I love this for plot plate tubes. You can use it to like you can either cut plot plate tubes with it if you want, or you can just score the plot plate tube, so it makes it easier for you to scribe a ring around it if you want to customize it or something like that. So yeah, so that's a really handy tool that's not really meant for like Gunpla per se, right? Yeah, I don't know, like yeah, like it's hard to specify what technique. I mean, sometimes people will show me a picture of something and be like, "How would you make this?" Right? And then so I would give them my 2 cents on how to make it, kind of thing, right? So if there's like a specific example, it might be easier. But I find a lot of times it's also about thinking outside the box. Sometimes, like if someone shows you something and be like, "How do you make this?" Right? Of course, you have those like really amazing builders who show you just like a blob of putty, and then they're like, "Yeah, I made this blob of putty into this like amazing like mechanical vent," and you're just like, "Dang, like that's all with scribing, right?" But like, yeah, sometimes there's other techniques too. Like I like exploring different ways. Those the God Hand in spin blades, spin mold blades. Have
Yeah,
you guys ever seen those?
yeah. The what do you call that? You make the
Um,
chamfer bits.
The chamfer bits are good too, exactly. But this one here specifically makes like a circular, kind of circular indent into like a
Oh yeah,
drill.
yeah.
Has
All
like
right.
a metal pin that fits in the middle. And so I like for my GBWC 12th build, I used that a lot and I loved it. Like it was so
Mm.
good for like adding little detail parts to things, right? So yeah, yeah.
All right. So when it comes to creating your entries for GBWC, when you're brainstorming for a competition, do you start with a story, a technique you want to try, or a specific aesthetic?
Oh, that's such a great question. I feel like oftentimes it could be. That's a really good question. It's hard to say. In the past, the way it's worked for me is like I just have like a suit that I really like and I want to build. And then as I'm building it, I'm like, wow, like this is so much fun. Like um I like to I like to like detail up kits, right? Like so
Yeah.
um sometimes it could just be I have a suit or a model kit I want to build, and then building it, I decide I want to enter into competition. So then I try to think of a concept, right, relating to that build. I feel like that's probably more of what I do, right? But I am very like when I build for building for a competition is very different than building like regularly, right? Because for a competition, I tend to think more of the story first or what I'm trying to communicate first, right? um, because I feel like for a competition build, it's so hard just to have like a singular kit on like a stand and that's it kind of thing. Mind you, that's how my GBWC 12 thing was. But there's like a concept behind it too, right? But like you know what I mean? Like I think if you just show like a singular kit with just like a regular Bandai stand, those ones aren't really going to do that well, right? And so therefore you a lot of times I think of the suit I want to work on, and then soon after that it's kind of like the concept or the story that I want to portray.
Mm. All right.
Yeah, yeah. And so for example, like the Arrival build, right? That build, that one was kind of different in that I saw a picture of the Monkey King,
Mhm.
Monkey King crashing down, and it was very dynamic. I remember it was like a concept art of Monkey King. Remember seeing that concept art and I was like, dang, that would be so cool if I could apply this to Gundam, right? And so that's how the Arrival build all started, right? And from that I started thinking like, hey, what's like a really dynamic looking suit, right? And then the Astray is always in like these dynamic kind of like poses, right? With the katana blade and stuff like that. So I was like, oh man, that's also why I gave this guy a staff, right? Because I was like, to harken back a little bit to the whole Monkey King thing, right? So, but yeah, so I guess it varies, right? Sometimes I think of a concept or I see an image, and then I think back of what suit would be appropriate to it. Or sometimes I might think of the model kit itself and then go back to thinking of like what concepts, right? So specifically for my Kshatriya and also for my GBWC 12, the RX78 build, both of those inspirations, yeah, the loading, yeah, both of those inspirations came actually from watching anime. Like, so I was watching the Unicorn for the Kshatriya, and I was like, ooh, I wonder how, I love the Kshatriya, right? And so I was like, ooh, it would be so cool to like see the transition period between the Kshatriya and like, you know, the repaired Kshatriya. And then for the RX78, I was watching Gundam Build Fighters. Again, it was like my second time with my daughters, right? And so that's where it kind of clicked for me because I was customizing this PG for a while, but I never knew I would be using it as GBWC until I watched the Gundam Build Fighters again, and I was like, oh, things are clicking, right? And yeah, so that's how this came about too. Yeah.
All right.
Was it your daughter's first time watching a Gundam anime?
Yeah, it was actually. So that was the very first like intro to Gundam for them that I wanted to show them, right? Unfortunately, my like they still like watching dub rather than sub because they can't read fast enough for the subtitles, right? And so we watched the Gundam Build Fighters in the dub version, but it was like a really bad dub version, right? And so they ended up like losing steam after like the third or fourth episode. And I was like, oh, okay, we'll come back to this in the future when you guys read subtitles, okay? Because it's like a really awesome anime, right? So, but I'm glad I watched it again with them because it was honestly after the first or second episode where they started talking about like main character, say Iori's dad. And that's how everything clicked for me. So it was one of those ones where we only watched like the first 2 episodes or 3 episodes, but then it was enough for me to click, and I was like, okay, guys, Daddy's got to get to work. I'm going to be building more of this thing, right? So that's how it all started.
I gotta go to work.
Yeah. I highly
Alright,
recommend it. It's fun.
so when it comes to building, right? So sometimes we lose steam on our current builds, right? So have you ever scrapped a build midway through because it wasn't working?
That's a great question. I guess I have scrapped a build, but I shouldn't really say scrap, right? And I shouldn't really say because it wasn't working, but it was more because like I wanted to work on another piece. So I find for competition builds, right? I set a very clear goal and I try to finish those builds, right? It's a really good question you asked because for my arrival build, right? I built that build immediately. I started on that build shortly after my Kshatriya build back in 2018, right? And then I was building it in 2019, right? And of course in 2020 we all know COVID happened, right? And so GBWC was canceled, right? So I actually had set of that ashtray and even the rocks all carved out, all built already. And I just haven't painted it, right? And I left it in that state for 3 years, I would say, right? And I actually wasn't planning on finishing that build because during COVID, I wanted to do other builds that were less like encompassing. So I started working on like my Zakuzue, like different builds, right? Like smaller builds that weren't really going to be used necessarily for a competition or something, but they were always hobby builds like that I really wanted to build. And so after building and completing those, then I kind of lost steam and I never was going to finish the ashtray. But then all of a sudden one day, like I was just in the early morning, I was just looking at it because it was always in my display case. And I was like, man, I should really just complete this because like, I feel really bad for not completing this. And I'm so glad I did, right? Cause like, like I'm so glad I did because like, yeah, even though it didn't win GBWC or anything even remotely close. Actually, that year for GBWC, I don't know if you know, but I was disqualified because I was using high Q decals on that piece. So this was actually used for GBWC, I think 2 years ago. But that was also the year where there was a mass disqualification of like tons of GBWC entries, right? And so that's fine. I mean, I was disqualified from that, even though like they didn't say specifically I couldn't use like non-Bandai decals, and everything else was completely Bandai, right? But that's okay. I'm still glad I really built it, right? And I finished it because it is a piece I really enjoy display now, right? So, but that's probably one piece that I kind of lost steam, but I went back to finish it, right? But I feel like most of the time I tend to like finish all my pieces kind of thing. But it's also interesting because like in terms of my Instagram, I only post the kit when I'm completed it. So that's another thing too, right? Like I don't want to like post work in progresses and then not finish it because like I know at least for me, oftentimes I want to see like the final completed version. So that's one kind of little thing about my Instagram is I always post kits only after I'm done the full thing, right? And then I show sneak peeks of it leading up to it. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, last question for everyone out there, for the audience watching us, who is into customizing and really into the advanced modeling of the hobby. So, for you, what is the most underrated or underutilized technique in the hobby?
Oh, that's a really good man. You guys are really good with these. um, I would say I would say, okay, so I'm going to talk really broadly, okay? So I would say the posing of your gunpla is really important. I would say proportions of your gunpla is really important. That's not really looked at a lot. Partially because proportion modification is seen as kind of like an older school version of gunpla modeling. Because nowadays, a lot of the more modern kits have already really nice proportions, right? Or decent. Some still look pretty like derpy, like with like big heads, short legs, short arms, and you know, big chest kind of thing, right? But I think even with the newer kits, some proportions can be tweaked to make it a better look. But well, I think one of the reasons why that's not normally done is because oftentimes when people look at a model, they're going to be looking at like, oh, look at the beautiful scribes, or oh, look at like how clean the paint is, right? But I think proportion modification is one of those things that's like that makes a big difference, right? Because when you look at a model, when you compare, sometimes it's one of those things where when you look at it, you're like, this looks really good, but I don't know why, right? Like even though there's not that many panel lines on it, even though there's might be not that many decals on it, but for some reason it just looks really well balanced, right? And so with proportion modification also comes your general like silhouette of your model too, like how the silhouette looks too. Like sometimes is it too top heavy? Is it too bottom heavy? Does the bulk of the legs match the bulk of the backpack, right? Little things like that might seem off, right? So another big thing is also like your general like color placement and color theory, right? I know this sounds like very like artsy, but it does make a really big difference, right? If you choose the right colors in what you in what you use. For example, do you choose like the right complementary colors, right? Like Gundams always have like several main colors, usually one dominant color, right, on the arms and legs, right? Secondary color, which is also kind of dominant on the chest and maybe on the thigh area, right? And then like a highlight color, right? So are those three colors complementary to each other, right? Is there like a triad of colors that work, right? Or if they don't, this of course applies more to like custom paint jobs, right? Or another thing too, like generally more for like diorama building is like, how is your composition like in your dioramas, right? Like, do you guys do photography? Oh yeah, you guys photography, Gunpla photography channel, right? And so there's a lot of photography principles that play in Gunpla as well too, right? Like in Gunpla diorama specifically, right? Like, do you follow the rule of thirds, right? Or like usually as a general rule in your dioramas, right? If you have odd number of elements, it's better than even number of elements. So if you have two suits fighting, yeah, you can still have two suits, but maybe have like a third kind of dominant structure, for example, like a building or something, right? So that there's still a triad of pieces, right? Yeah, or even in your placement of your suits, right? Like most of the times when people first make their very first diorama, it's very linear, right? So if you have like a base, everything is just like completely straight, right? But if you just like tilt that a little bit, so rather than the road running straight from left to right, if you do it from the upper corner to the lower corner, it changes your perspective. Oh, yeah, like that. Oh, wow. Dude, on the ball. Like something like that where you just tilt the road ever so slightly, it adds a lot more ability for you to tell story a lot more. So for example, if I made it just all straight, the placement of the pole and the placement of the trees would be too parallel to each other, right? And it would just be boring to look at, you know. Like oftentimes when you're looking at movies, if the movie was just shot all the time, like straight on, it'd be a very boring movie to watch. But you know, like those really cool pans sometimes, right? Or from a different angle, shot from a different, even in photography, right? Like if you shoot always just a portrait of someone straight on, it gets really boring really quick, right? Like school photos and stuff, right? But if you just shoot it from a slightly different angle, it increases the interest immediately, right? And so I feel like a lot of these kind of like general art principles are really important in Gunpla, right? That might be overlooked a lot of times, right? And so really playing with like the angle at which you're posing, the angle at which you're making your dioramas, right? I think all of those things are really overlooked principles a lot of times. So sometimes people will look at a diorama and be like, what's off? Like something just seems off. And be like, have you ever thought of just like maybe tilting the scene a little bit, right? That in and of itself can already create a lot more interest. Or not only that, but like thinking verticality of your scene too. Like a lot of times everything's like a flat ground and then you have two suits fighting, right? Like, oh, what if like, you know, what if you added some verticality to that? Like what if you added a building in the background? Think like background and foreground, right? Different aspects, different layers to it, right? So anyways, those are some things that might be overlooked. Yeah.
So instead of 2 Gundams kissing, I can have 3 Gundams kissing. It works perfectly for me.
I knew you were gonna say that when I saw you smile.
I just came out of my
I
head.
saw you smile when I said 3, and that's why I said you don't need a 3rd Gundam. You could have like 2 Gundams kissing a pole.
That works too. South Pole. Yeah, there we go. The idea is the creative juices are flowing.
Yeah, I love the thing. I love the way you think, man. Yeah,
I know.
yeah, it's just so good, Justin.
I don't.
So good.
I don't like the way I think. Anyway.
You're here.
So I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I asked you earlier if you know Elder Scrolls, if you played Skyrim, because there's someone who wants to meet you. So let me just get him real quick.
Oh, cool.
And this person wants to say, Vegeta's questions, if you have answers. Okay.
Oh,
Just
nice.
Just one question, please. This one wants to know, which customization technique would you recommend new builders to try out first?
Wow, this is good, man. I don't know if I could talk without laughing, man.
I will take it off just to make sure.
It's good. It's good. Oh, I love it. I love your accent, bro. I wish I played the game though.
My effort.
I love playing the Sailor Moon video game. Could you dress up as that and talk to me? No, I was kidding.
Let me just look for my.
I'm just kidding. Sorry. Which customization technique would I recommend to people doing it for the first time? Right?
Yes, like absolute
Well,
new builders, because I'm actually brand new to the hobby. I just started like this year, so.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, you know, I tell people now. I'm assuming like a lot of the things I mentioned in the past too, right? Like, say you take a kit, right? It could be any kit. I always recommend people before they try like scribing like their own custom panel lines. I think it's a really good exercise to. I mean, okay, of course you can go to like, okay, you know, you want to close up all the seam lines, remove all your knobs, like, yeah, you could do that. But I feel like as a first time kind of builder or early builders, doing those things can be very boring and tedious. And honestly, it doesn't seem very rewarding, right? I feel like a lot of times for your first build as a first time customizing, one of the things that's really satisfying and that can really make a big difference to your kit is if you use a chisel, right? If you get a chisel, I recommend like a 0.1 millimeter chisel, right? Or even a 0.075 chisel, right? And if you use that chisel to highlight existing details on the kit. So what I mean by that is if you like scribe out, like, you know how oftentimes like you have Gunpla pieces that like, I'll use this controller as an example. You like raised pieces on your Gundams, right? A lot of times like you can just follow that line around there and then scribe around it to like define that detail more. So you do that to all the details, right? And then you also do it to existing panel line details on your kit. You rescribe out and deepen those existing panel lines. EA Gunpla is like a perfect example of that, you know? He does like an intro to build series, right? You guys should check it out if you guys haven't. But he basically just refines existing detail. And then after he like paints it or whatever, you don't even have to paint it if you don't want to. But it makes it, and when you flow panel line fluid on those areas there, it just makes those details pop ever so slightly more. So honestly, what I've done in the past, if I've taken a kit, I built it together, I scribe all those details out, right? I don't even paint it. I just like clear gloss coat it, and then I panel line it, and then I matte coat it. And it's like such a cool thing to do, right? And it can really elevate a lot of your stuff, right? So yeah, this is EA Gunpla's channel. This is when he does a little bit more like complex panel line designs, right? But it's similar. Like he focuses a lot on just like surface preparation, like sanding things down, refining existing details. You can add extra details if you want, but I feel like that might sometimes, right? Even if you just refine existing details, you don't even have to paint. You just kind of gloss coat it, you panel line it, and you could put decals if you want, right? And then just matte coat it. You'll have a really nice kit. And I feel like that oftentimes will give you kind of the finish that you see in a lot of like really beautiful builds that you see, or some like pro builds that you see. You're like, wow, this is so, how do they make things look so crisp, right? Well, that's how they do it. They like refine every single detail with panel line chisels first, and then when you panel line it, it just flows right into all those details and make it look so crisp, right? So yeah, that would be my first customization. And like by doing that, you also will get a feel on how to use a chisel. And because oftentimes, like, I'm not saying chisel is like the only way you customize Gunpla, right? But I feel like it is a really good tool to have in your arsenal, because even if you are kit bashing, it's so important to refine those details that you've kit bashed onto your kit, right? Otherwise, it just looks like it's just like glued on kind of thing, right? And so I feel like as a start, that's a really good start as a novice builder. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah, because like as someone
And
who
I
just
need that advice.
out the chisels.
'Cause I've been kit bashing right now, and I was thinking like, how would I make the whole kit, like, not kit bashed? So I guess
Yeah.
that's one good way to do it, make it
Yeah.
look crisp, all the parts.
Exactly. Like a lot of times, like you could do it either by like after you glue a piece onto another, then you can refine it with chisel in there, right? So it doesn't look like it's just like glued on top, right? Or you can even like chisel out, like chisel to the point where that piece just breaks right off, and then you could fit that piece and inset it into a piece you're trying to kit bash onto, right? So when a piece is inset into it, it just looks more natural, right? And so that's kind of like your specific technique on how to marry the pieces together. But of course, another like overarching technique too in terms of kit bashing is finding pieces that look similar to the original kit. That like, because if you have, for example, a really curvy kit, right, but you're using like a really like blocky kit to kit bash onto, it might not jive, right? And so that's another key to kit bashing. It's really tricky to find like, for example, like a lot of Exia kits, right, would be really good kit bash fodder for like AOZ kits, for example, you know, because they have similar kind of like, you know, some similar aesthetic, right? Whereas if you found like a wing kit, right, that's really, or like a really curvy kit, I don't know, like if you got like, it's hard to think of specific examples, but like, yeah, you get what I mean. Like if you took like a camphor, for example, to have more rounded surfaces, right? And if you try to kit bash that with like an AOZ, it doesn't really fit that well because AOZ has like, you know, really boxy structures to it, right? And so those are some general principles too for kit bashing. Yeah.
Man,
I
that is
also
true. I tried get bashing. My first get bash was it looked like a mess because it didn't look balanced. Like
Mm,
it has block parts, sharp
yeah,
parts, stuff like that. It
yeah.
looked a mess. And someone reached out to me. If you know Hey It's K,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he gave me good advice. Like make all of the parts proportionate. Like if your main model is blocky, choose
Yeah,
parts that are blocky, stuff like that.
exactly.
I've been following his advice
Exactly.
ever since, and really
Yeah.
helpful.
That's a great advice. Exactly. That's a great advice. And once again, that plays into the whole silhouette of the whole piece too, right? Like if you were to like black out your entire piece and just look at like how the shape of it is, like does it make sense kind of thing and in different angles, right? The front and the back, like that makes a big difference. So, yeah.
I thought Ralph had questions.
Okay.
Well, actually, I also took note. I was while you were talking, I was taking notes earlier, and then you mentioned for first-time painters, you'd recommend using spray cans, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I yeah, I would strongly recommend that. And honestly, like you can get some really good finishes with spray cans too. Just know that like less is more, like you don't want to completely saturate your piece with spray cans, right? But the reason why I recommend, so this is kind of the process I would recommend, right? Like if you're a new time builder, get used to snapping a piece together or like a model kit together, right? After that, get used to like gloss coating your kit and then putting like water slide decals, right? And then matte coating it and panel lining too, and then matte coating over top. That's kind of like the next phase, right? If you want to custom paint, right, you could jump straight to an airbrush setup, but most of the time, what people will do is they'll buy a cheaper airbrush booth, an airbrush compressor, and airbrush, and then they'll do that, right? But I advise against buying like a cheaper airbrush setup, right? Not that you have to buy the most expensive, right? But don't cheap out on things kind of like that, right? You want to buy kind of like a decent airbrush, right? But even before jumping into that, I would just get used to the whole like spray can painting. So you get used to the whole idea of like priming a piece, right? You get the whole like do you use gray primer, white primer, brown primer, all these different kind of things, right? And then spraying the initial color on there first, right? And spraying between regular colors and metallics, right? How you do that, and then like you don't have to get too crazy with that too, but at least you get the flow of it, right? Like you get the idea of how to paint a kit, right? And how long you have to wait for the paint to set before you start touching it and handling it, right? And then you've already had experience doing gloss coat, so that should be easy, right? And then you can do decals again that you've done before, panel line that you've done before, and you do the matte coat over top that you've done before too, right? So you're kind of working up your skill set, right? And then from there, if you really enjoy that painting process, right, then yeah, sure, like look into an airbrush setup, right? And yes, there's a learning curve with that, but at least you already have that process in mind and you know how long it takes too, right? And then you
Mhm.
kind of build up from there, right? So I think I highly recommend using spray cans for your first if you want to try painting, because A, it's less intimidating, and B, like yeah, each spray can is going to cost a lot more than like a pot of paint kind of thing, right? But in the long run, at least you're not like, say if you use spray cans and you absolutely hate the painting process, then you don't want to waste your money on like an expensive airbrush and air booth, and it requires a lot more equipment too. Whereas like spray cans, you can just do it outside, right? And I would still recommend wearing a mask, right? But at least you can just do it outside, right? And so yeah.
I see.
But my
Okay.
biggest advice with spray cans is do it on a test piece first before you actually do it on all your other pieces, because humidity can, I know Philippines is really humid too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So humidity can affect the top coat a lot, so just be
Mm.
very careful and aware of that. You're using spray cans outside, especially for the top coat application, right? But yeah, that's my only advice. And you don't have to worry also with spray cans about like thinning ratios. That's another intimidating thing that people have when they're doing airbrushing for the first time. So those are things you don't have to worry about, right?
Yeah. I tried. I have to practice with that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like what about when it comes to like actual manually paintbrushing? Like where do you, in
Yeah.
terms of difficulty, where does that fall under?
That's a great question. So like hand brushing. So every builder's so different, right? I know you guys will be chatting with Simon soon. Simon is like a master hand brusher, right? And so if you have a lot of background in Warhammer painting or miniature painting, right? Then I mean, of course, you can hand brush. Like it's a whole skill set in and of itself, right? In terms of like for like what I do, right? If I do any hand painting, right, a lot of it is just for like really tiny like recessed details, right? And most of the time it's not so much painting as what you imagine it to be, like brush strokes. It's more like dabbing the paint, right? And then letting it set that way. That's how you get like a clean hand painted surface, right? It's more about dabbing the paint on as opposed to brushing the paint on, because most of the larger surfaces that you're painting are all airbrushed anyways. So it's pretty
Right.
rare you need to hand paint like a bigger piece or bigger part, right? And usually if there is a bigger part, I try to mask it off, right? And paint it and airbrush it. So the airbrushing does have airbrushing and spray cans like do have that other skill, which is masking. And that's a like a huge love hate relationship for many builders. Like most people hate masking, right? But they love it after they remove the masking. It's like, oh, that looks so good, right? So it's a huge love hate relationship. But unfortunately, like for a really clean build, right? I would say it's you have to know that skill, right? But if you're doing a really
Yeah.
like dirty like build, right? Honestly, it really doesn't matter. Like you can hand brush lacquers on if you want, right? There's some really good artists out there who do all hand brush lacquers, right? Because most people hand brush acrylics, right? But yeah, so it's a whole skill set of its own. And again, it's up to like what style you like, right? What you gravitate towards, right? And what works in your hands too. That's a big one too, right? So, but for me personally, like I don't have much hand brushing skills, right? That is something that like I do want to learn in the future and get better at, of course, right? So yeah, there's still a lot I have to learn.
Yeah, you mentioned masking. Actually, I saw some of your earlier works, the SD Neo's Yacht.
Oh, oh
Uh,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
I saw the process, like all the tape being
Yeah.
painted. I was like, wow, that's really detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that was like my first foray into masking and learning how to do it. And so yeah, it was challenging. I won't lie. It still is challenging if I were to do it today, but it's always kind of a challenge. Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, I also like that one too. That one's really pretty.
Aw, thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's my question related to customization. But as a like let's just say as someone who's also trying to get into Gundam or your Gunpla, because I remembered you said that you had your daughters watch Build Fighters for the first time.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
that's why I asked that question, why it was their first time, because I'm also looking
Yeah.
for personal inspiration as well from other Gundam anime.
Uh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I just wanted to know, in your opinion, which anime would be the would you recommend for newcomers?
Awesome. So I think one of the biggest intimidation factors in any type of Gundam anime is always like I don't know the storyline. Like, is the Gundam like an entire storyline from beginning to end? Like, what's up
Yeah.
with these alternate universes, Universal Century? Like, you could be lost in the lore of everything. So I feel like as like a first time Gundam person, right? I think Build Fighters is a great intro to that, right? Don't
Yeah.
expect it to be like an amazing storyline, like really deep storyline, right? But I think it's a really great intro to it because you don't need to know any lore. It's an anime purely about building and customizing Gunpla, right? And so, especially if you're someone who's already remotely interested in building, I think that marries that itch, right, really well, right? Like I think it's really good. It scratches that itch for watching an anime that supports that, right? in terms of anime that has really good like art style and storyline, and again, not something you necessarily need to know the backstories of, I love Gundam Thunderbolt. I don't know. Have you guys seen Gundam Thunderbolt before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They-
Oh yeah. Gundam Thunderbolt is so good. Like the animation style, the music, the stories. I highly recommend that if you're more into anime that you like Gundam stuff with, right? Strongly recommend Gundam Thunderbolt.
Dude,
Yeah, did you want to?
did you know Daryl Lawrence is officially deceased in the wiki?
You just
Oh,
spoiled Ryan.
No, that's just April Fools. You're
My
joking.
bad.
oh, okay.
In the
Yes,
manga.
Gundam Thunderbolt.
In the manga, though.
Come on.
Teddy's one.
Oh,
What the
Oops.
You just spoiled it.
leave now. No, I'm kidding. And cry a bit.
My bad.
We're going
Yeah.
to have to cut this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Gundam Thunderbolt's so good. I just love it. I fell in love with that series. And so, but I think, yeah, as a builder, I highly recommend Gundam Build Fighters. I think it's really fun, lighthearted, easy to kind of like get into, right? It's nothing serious, right? Yeah. So I think it's a great one to start with.
Okay. Actually, I watched Build Divers, which I heard is supposedly like the next after
Yes.
that comes after Build Fighters.
Exactly. It's a sequel. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I should
Yeah.
probably go back in time to watch Build Fighters.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
All right, Ryan, we have two last questions that we always ask every guest that we had. First is, what's your favorite anime? And second is, what's your favorite kit of all time?
Oh wow, good questions. My favorite anime? Oh man, that's so hard to say, man. I love like the classics, right? My most recent favorite anime is Solo Leveling. I love Solo Leveling.
Oh,
Have you guys seen Solo Leveling?
yeah. But in terms of like Gundam
Yeah, I love-
anime.
Oh, Gundam anime. Okay,
No,
sorry.
Yeah, but Solo
Oh
Leveling
wow,
is good, yeah.
I already said that. Yeah, I love Thunderbolt. I love Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt's your
Gundam
favorite
anime.
one? Yeah.
Yeah,
Look at
I
GP.
really like that. I love your enthusiasm.
We're all
You guys are
fanboys
awesome.
here.
We have it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I love Thunderbolt. That's probably my favorite Gundam anime. In terms of my favorite kit, oh man, that's so hard. Cause like there's kits that are really good builds and design, but then in terms of like the actual mobile suit design, oh man. Really like the Kshatriya.
Hmm.
I really like the Kshatriya. Yeah.
It's a good
I
choice.
even though it's an HG, but I really like it because like I thought the construction was really good of it. Or customizing people, there's like a blank slate for you to customize. But even if you don't customize, it just looks really cool. Like I think it's just like a bigger HG kit, has a lot of presence. I think the proportions of it are really good. So yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's all of our questions. Thank you so much, Ryan, again for being for being so nice and and accepting our invite. But before we let you go, we were gonna ask you to stay for a few minutes because we're gonna move on to our next segment of the show, which is GP, this week's Gunpla photo of the week. You take it away.
It's from the People's Choice and Plamo Photography.
An armored core?
Yeah, it is an armored core. Look at that lighting. It's just perfect for armored core vibes, right?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah,
Looks evil.
I really like the lighting.
Yeah. Menacing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this one is by Mamba. Yeah, he posted it on the Plamo Photography group. So if you have a Plamo, a mecha Plamo that is, or basically a Plamo that is not Gundam, and if you want to post it on a group, GP made a new one called Plamo Photography. So there we go.
Oh, cool.
Right. And for the next one, the Gunpla photo of the week.
This is in
Oh,
this is in Gunpla Photography, People's Choice. This is PG, right? Or is it
Yeah.
the high res?
I
I'm
think
not
this is the
sure.
PG.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the PG.
He has more shots. Oh, there we go. Weathered.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And for your
Nice.
GB pick of the week.
My choice?
Yes.
Dougie.
Oh,
Yeah.
Dougie Hubby House.
Yeah.
From Josh.
nice.
Shout out
He
Josh.
posted that. Yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to choose one from the Discord server, and his work is the one that really popped out, so I just chose his.
Mm.
That's nice.
Shout out.
Wait, is this customs?
Aw,
I'm not sure.
great.
I'm not sure. But yeah.
Oh, that looks
Love it, though.
nice.
Right.
Good job, Josh.
Shout out Josh.
Shout out, Josh.
And that's
Yeah,
our
that's cool.
Gunpla Photos of the week. Okay. Well,
Nice.
All right. So again, thank you, Ryan. You can follow Ryan in Instagram. He goes by Gunpla Enthusiast. He's also on Facebook
Yeah.
as Ryan Lau. And are you on X, Ryan?
Yes.
All right.
On X, it's Gunpla Enthusi.
Tuesday.
It's just enthusiast, but it ran out of letter space, so there's no like. Yeah.
All right.
It's just Gunpla Enthusiast.
I hope you had a good time, Ryan.
Thanks.
And I don't know. Did you have a good time? I hope you did.
I had such a good time, guys. Like,
Yeah.
it was so fun. I love your guys' questions, right? And I love the smiles and the cheers. So good. I really had a great time with you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, hopefully we can invite you back someday. You know,
Hey.
whenever. But yeah, that's
Some
it
insights.
for today's episode. Guys, if you guys enjoyed the episode, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And don't forget, running only gets you one. Moving forward gets you two. Goodbye.
What?
Perfect Grade Podcast.